Hey y'all, it's David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be doing a session recap video for Return of the Runefangs, Session 2! So you might recall that we left our daring heroes in Session 1 sailing down the Reik on their war galley, the Malice, along with their master-at-arms, Buck Salder, and they had gone in search of their missing riverboat, the Colossus, which they believe has been captured by pirates in the area. And they had heard tell that the head pirate in charge is a man named Sixtus Jurger, who styles himself as the River Knight. He claims to be the bastard son of Gifford Jurger, Count of Wissenland. So he claims that as a son of a count, he is entitled to wear the tabard of a knight of Wissenland, the gray lion under a white sun, and he's entitled to carry a sword as well, which only those of noble bearing are allowed to bear swords in this setting. Commoners are banned. It's illegal to own a sword if you're a commoner. So they're heading down the River Reik. They've spied a couple lookouts up in the trees, and the lookouts are positioned on either side of this small inlet into the Reik. So they pass by as if they had not noticed them, and they beach the Malice, disgorge their men-at-arms. They only had about 25 men-at-arms, but they disgorged them under the command of Sir Ulrich and Sir Savage as his lieutenant. And Sir Lewin took command of the Malice and started rowing back towards the inlet. Now their plan was to draw out the pirate ship, and as it was coming, which is the Sphinx they believe, and as it was heading up the inlet to face the Malice, they're going to bombard it from the shore. Especially Sir Savage Gideon, who is a bright wizard, so that's a fire mage. So as the men-at-arms are heading down through the woods towards the inlet, Sir Ulrich is leading them, and he starts to notice that some crude traps have actually been left there by the pirates. Go figure, they're pirates, they've surrounded their base in traps. It does make some sense. So Ulrich manages to disarm some traps, and he's leading his men-at-arms through there. They're all armed with spear and chainmail. They all have shields. But their commotion does alert one of the sentries up in the tree that they spied before, and he raises his horn up. He sounds the alert, and now all the men-at-arms just have shields, so they have no ranged attack. Buck Salder, the master-at-arms, he actually does have a longbow, for he favors a large axe as his weapon. It's an axe can use one-handed, but you get a bonus to use it two-handed. It's kind of a bastard axe, if you will. But I think he rolled the highest initiative because the scout, of course, starts fumbling for his bow up in the tree. So Buck perforates the man with arrows, but he starts to fall out of the tree, and he grabs onto the branch though, and he's hanging just for a second. And Savage, of course, sees him hanging there. He's like, "Oh yeah, fireball, boom!" And he throws the fireball. And as the man is hanging there, the fireball blasts his arms, and his arms just explode. A bone arrow goes everywhere. His hand is still in the tree. He falls out of the tree, smashes on the ground. So Savage was very happy to get to use some of his magic. They come up on the inlet, and the other scout across the way starts firing arrows from his bow. And this time Sauvage has the top of the initiative. He gets himself another fireball. Boom! He throws the fireball. The scout bursts into flames. He catches fire. And he falls forward. I roll the old 50-50 to see if he lands on the shore or the water. He lands on the water, so there's this great sizzling as he hits. Now the fall didn't kill him, so you hear like, ah, sploosh! Ah, as the fire goes out, he's like, ah, yes. And then he starts to drown. He starts to make swim checks. He drowned, though. So that was very entertaining. And by this time, the Malice has come up at the end of the inlet. And the men-at-arms kind of assume their positions in hiding. Now, as a GM, what I had done is planned out how I thought this would go, or several options. And my plan was to have Sixtus and the Sphinx come down the inlet, and they'd kind of see they're evenly matched, and Sixtus would call parlay, and he'd admit that he captured the Colossus, and he'd offer them either the cargo, the ship, or the crew back, but only one of them. And then they could also have the favor of the Bridge Rats, his thieves guild, and favors from them. Perhaps even set some smuggling up between them and the players' House Berengar. And they could argue him down to, they could get 2 of the 3 things back if they rolled some nice diplomacy. So that was my plan for this scene. Because Six is a pretty cool character that I developed for him. So he's coming down, and of course the men-at-arms break cover. Sauvage blasts them with fire. The men-at-arms have switched out for some bows. They put their shields aside. And they pepper the Sphinx with arrows. At the same time, Lewin is driving the Malice down the inlet because the Malice is a warship. It has a ram on the bow, whereas the Sphinx is just a converted merchant ship. It has no ram. So he's getting ready to ram them. But also he has a small catapult and a few ballistae. So he opens fire with that on the pirates as well. The pirates did return fire towards the Malice. But in the next round, the Malice was coming in with the ram. The very last moment before they crashed head to head, he pulled sideways and retracted his oars on that side and smashed through all of the oars on the opposite side of the Sphinx and grappled them. Now, at this point, Sir Lewin kind of realized, like, wait a sec, I don't have any men-at-arms. They're all on the shore, and I've got to deal with all these pirates now. Like, Sir Lewin is, he's 7 feet tall, and he's got himself a poleaxe, but he's 50 years old, and he only has one hand, one arm. His other arm he lost in the War of the Wasteland 20 years ago, and he's got a shield strapped to it, to the stump, but he's going to have some problems since all he's got is sailors and just the men manning the ballistae and catapult. Fortunately, Sir Ulrich and Sir Gideon blast the pirates again with fire and arrows, and they pretty much took care of the pirates. The pirates broke. Sixtus was struck by many arrows, fell to the ground, but before that, he was smitten in the face with a fireball from Sir Sauvage. So his face has been badly burned. So it didn't go the way I planned. There was no parlay. There was no dialogue from Sixtus. It was just pure combat. It was a fun combat. and they captured Sixtus. He of course survived since he had a destiny point. He's a named character, you see, so he has a destiny point to survive, but he is badly injured. It's going to take some time to heal him up. So after capturing the Sphinx, they proceeded downriver towards the pirate base, or down the inlet, I should say, small river. And again, I have my own plans for this scene, because the when they arrive, they see that some ramshackle huts around a dock. It's all been built by pirates, so the carpentry is terrible. But there's a big cage with all of the crew of the Colossus. They see the Colossus there, and its cargo unloaded on the docks. Now, standing on the docks, there's a fat man in silken robes, flanked by two ogres. Now, this they don't know who this is. But this is Prince Carlos Hess. He's a merchant prince of Marienburg, which is in the wasteland. So my plan for this scene had been for Carlos to greet them and congratulate them on their victory, and deny all knowledge that he was dealing with pirates. You know, just say, oh, I thought he was a knight of Wissenland. I was just here to buy some slaves from him. And in the wasteland, slavery is legal, so I didn't figure anyone would mind. And he was going to be, you know, very greasy merchant prince. He's all covered in jewels and wearing silk, and he's enormously fat and perfumed. So he was going to essentially try to bribe some safe passage for himself. You know, he had a chest of silver that he brought to buy the slaves. And he had a coffer of jewelry for himself, but he's also very wealthy. He could arrange, you know, I was gonna have him come in and say, you know, oh yes, I had no idea it was illegal. I'm so sorry. Why don't you take me to Nuln and I'll pay you this ridiculous amount of money for safe passage to Nuln. Kind of bribe them into not, you know, not arresting him basically, and. That was my plan. Negotiation, merchant prince, lots of cash, political contacts. That's the plan. What actually happens is they stop the Malice just off the docks, and Sir Ulrich demands that the ogres drop their weapons. They have enormous maces, like two-handed maces for an ogre. And the merchant prince, you know, he is waving his little kerchief, and he's like, oh yes, I parlay. Yes, come and we'll have negotiations. And Ulrich refuses to parlay until he's disarmed his ogres. And Carlos is basically saying, oh no, they're just bodyguards. They're not going to hurt anyone. They're here to protect me. But I'm not having them drop their weapons. So, Sir Ulrich kind of thinks for a second. He's like, you've denied my initial request. I see. He's like, open fire on the ogres, man. And the ballistae, the catapult, the men-at-arms, and of course Sir Savage is hurling fireballs into the ogres. But the ogres are so loyal, they're so stupid and loyal that they won't drop their maces. And they're getting blasted with fire and ballista bolts. One of the bolts missed the ogre. It smashed a cabin behind them. But Carlos is freaking out. He's like, oh no, my ogres! No, stop! They're ridiculously expensive. Don't do that to my ogres. You're going to maim them. And Ulrich is like, just tell them to drop their weapons, and I will cease fire. And Carlos is like, no, they're my bodyguards. They're my bodyguards. Who will protect me, if not the ogres? So the ogres, it takes like 3 rounds to kill them because they're enormous, and you know, the rule set we're using is actually realistic. So, you know, an 8 or 9 foot tall ogre, if you think of the mass behind that, yeah, they're not going to go down easy. But they did go down eventually. One of them fell forward into the river, and one of them fell backwards and is blocking the docks. And Ulrich pulls up and he finally docks the Malice, and his men start moving out. And Carlos is yelling at him about, how could you be so insolent? You killed my ogres. I'm trying to parley with you. This is an assault on my person. And Ulrich is like, oh, you're going to be snippy with me, eh? Lash him to the oars. And Carlos is like, what? And then they seize him and they drag him inside of the ship. So, again, my planned role-playing scene is kind of foiled, as he was just, his ogres were killed. And I was going to use the ogres as NPCs as well, not major ones. They didn't have any destiny points, but they were going to be fun to roleplay with. And, of course, Carlos had all his role-playing chops there. But no, just lash into the oars. Which is fine. That's what their character would do. So they lashed into the oars. They took his chests of gold and jewelry, and they took his chests of silver. They freed the would-be slaves, and the Sphinx was captured. Sixus was captured. Carlos was captured. Colossus and its cargo is recovered. It's a successful mission, and they head back to Nuln. So we had this great role-playing scene when they got back, where Sir Ulrich has always been the second son, and his older brother has been the favored son, the heir to the Berengar house. His father never really appreciated Ulrich, but now Ulrich's come back. He saved the day. Plus, he's got these two potentially lucrative prisoners and a chest of gold and a chest of silver. So his father's like, oh, my younger son did something right? Oh, my son, I've badly misjudged you all of the years. There's been squandered between us, but no more. Now I know your worth, and we shall find callings for you and missions for you that are truly important and exceptional. And his brother is standing behind them, and Lord York, Lord of Berengar, he grabs Ulrich in this big hug. Ulrich can see over his father's shoulder, over Lord York's shoulder, sees brother Bernard. He's just sitting there, just fuming. He's grinding his teeth together, watching as his stock drops and Ulrich's stock rises, and maybe he's not so much the favored son anymore. But Sir Savage starts whispering in Bernard's ear. He's saying, "Oh, do not worry. Ulrich is truly incompetent. It was only myself and Sir Lewin who managed to guide him to this victory. But we have an important mission for you, to go to the wasteland, go to Marienburg, negotiate a ransom for Prince Carlos, and you will have a chance to see this foreign country, and to get there you'll have to head up the Reik as well, which is infested with the Bridge Rats pirates. So you'll have a chance to capture a pirate ship as well, perhaps." He's telling him this. So Sir Bernard has got this idea in his head that he's going to be able to capture a pirate ship and one up his brother. Which, if they hadn't caught the pirates so unawares and in this crossfire, it could have gone very differently. So who knows what that could lead to with Bernard. Like, he could get killed by pirates, or maybe he'll succeed and capture some pirates. Who knows? But he has now got a mission to head off to the wasteland, whereas Sir Ulrich has declared that he's going to head back on the river as well and head north. So turning onto the river Ster from the river Reik, and head up to Wertbad, capital of Stirland, because he has a letter of introduction to the Lady Cruz, who is currently the ruler of Wertbad. And the main reason he's going, of course, is that the Lady Krus's daughters are unmarried, and there are no male heirs. So whoever marries the eldest daughter of House Krus could become the next Count of Stirland. Unless Lady Krus and Count Krus start making some little Kruses. But that seems unlikely, since he's been away at court for 5 years, never returns home, she never visits him. So there may have been some kind of falling out there with the happy couple. But that's pretty much where we left off this second session. That they've succeeded in their initial mission, and they're planning on heading off now. For a while at least, they'll be, of course, sailing alongside Sir Bernard. Then they'll head up to Wertbad. You may have noticed that James's character has not yet been introduced. It's because James missed this session as well. But hopefully we can bring him in with the next session. I've also got some other players interested from meetup.com. I got a couple buddies interested. So hopefully the cast will be expanding. I think I've got 40 named NPCs, although obviously only 10 or so have been introduced so far. So I look forward to getting back to you with our next video for Return of the Runefangs. And y'all have yourselves a nice day out there in YouTube land.